this is Heather Markell. Welcome to another episode of the Inspired Nomads series with a special twist because I am currently making this a pandemic series. So unlike previous episodes where we completely focused on the nature of full-time travel, how to afford it, and so forth, we're going to add in lots of relevant questions and information about living through the pandemic and what it's like to be a traveler during these times. So welcome tonight, and by the way, I am still in Kerikeri, New Zealand, way up north of the North Island. And tonight, my first pandemic series guest is Victoria Osborne. So Victoria, welcome, and can you tell us a bit about yourself and where you are right now?
Thank you, Heather. Well, I'm not wearing a mask. I'm sorry about that. But I've been wearing one most of the day because I'm in Melbourne and we are in lockdown with the mandatory face covering, which is great for Melbourne because Melbourne is a very stylish, fashionable area, and so everybody's got out the sewing machines and they've made themselves gorgeous masks. I saw someone the other day wearing a leopard print mask with matching leopard print accessories on her outfit, and I went into a shop. It was actually a costumier shop, and they have little badges and decorations so you can put them on your mask. Things like, if you can see this, you're too close, or wash your damn hands, because sadly Melbourne's numbers are going up, which is pretty grim.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, I know you've been a traveler up to recent times, so how long were you traveling and whereabouts in the world?
Okay, so I left Melbourne on the 19th of April 2016, and I was on my way to Spain to do the Camino de Santiago, Del Norte and Primitivo, and I was going to spend a gap year in Spain working in a primary school, but I didn't know where at that stage. So that's what I knew when I left Melbourne, and I went to Hong Kong, where I used to live as a child for a couple of years, and sort of walked around the childhood areas, and then flew into Madrid, and I did an language intensivo there. Went to a puppet festival called Tittere Mundi in Segovia, Segovia was amazing because I don't know if you've been there, but it's got one of the ancient Roman viaducts. And I got off this bus and I had to try and find the Airbnb, and it was really hot and sweaty. I had all the stupid luggage and it was mad. And then I turned around a corner and poof, there was this like history. And the thing's made with no mortar. It's just rocks. And, blokes made it wearing sandals and skirts, It's just like, there's nothing like that in Australia and New Zealand. And, that was the sort of first big culture shock that I had. So anyway, then I went up to San Sebastian, where there was another puppet festival, UNIMA, which is the International Puppetry Community, have every 4 years, party, and so that's why I was doing the Camino del Norte, because I was in San Sebastian, so that's in the Basque Country. And then so I was, this is it, I was having my big life-changing adventure, and so I marched all along the Camino, and it was fantastic. It was amazing. Got to the end of the world, and then went down and spent 10 months in a small high school, it turned out to be, in Palafolls, which is about 2 hours north of Barcelona. And then they offered me a chance to renew. And I said, well, yes, I could have another gap year. But my husband said no. And so that was the end of the marriage. So I then spent the next 3 years repeating the exercise, but I went back up north to Asturias for 10 months and then down to Sevilla. So I worked in 3 different provinces of Spain, but I also travelled extensively through Spain. And then I travelled a lot through Europe because I met people from the Camino. And so I spent, went as far north as actually Denmark, and then Germany and France, and a fair bit of time in England. Yeah, so all up, I was away for 4 years, and then I decided when I was heading back, I really couldn't fly. So I had to spend about 3 months planning my journey from England to Australia and New Zealand without flying. And
that was because of the pandemic, you didn't want to fly, or?
No, I didn't want to fly because of the pollution. So I didn't want to be part and parcel of, carbon emissions. No, the pandemic wasn't a blip on the radar at all that stage. And because I actually came through China, Taiwan, and then caught a container ship down to Brisbane and then over to Auckland. Yeah, so container ship's pretty cool. And I was passenger only one on my first container ship. So that was fun. And then I had to come back to Melbourne to do, end of marriage business. So I was aiming here anyway, and kind of thought, oh, well, I'll get a job for a year and then buzz off back to Italy where I never visited. And of course, that's not happening. So jobs are, now online. I'm teaching English online. And there you are, that's it. I'm here in Melbourne.
Yeah. So for the 4 years that you were traveling, can you say a little bit about, how did you afford that, and how did you get to stay in each region for a long time?
Okay, so the conversation auxiliaires, like there's thousands of them in Spain, and I'm kind of like pretty rare and old. Normally I was a recent-ish graduate, but normally the gig is for young graduates, and there's native English speakers. There's also Italians and Germans and French, but mainly English, because the Spanish government wants like a certain percentage of the curriculum to be taught in English. And of course, Spanish teachers are Spanish, so their English is not entirely fluent sometimes. And Spanish children believe that Star Wars is a Spanish film because they don't have subtitles in their cinemas.
Oh,
so
wow.
They have, or special Spanish actors, which is great for the actors. So every, sort of famous American actor has a Spanish equivalent to voice them in, in film or British films. Yeah, so Spanish children actually, like me, when I first landed in Spain, it was like, what do you mean you don't speak English? You don't understand me? Actually, most people do have a little bit, but a little bit of Spanish. So yeah, I could understand the children who simply did not believe that I didn't understand them. What do you mean? Yeah, so that's a good thing. You get paid enough. I got paid 700 euros a month, which is getting a bit tight in Seville because it's very expensive in Sevilla. But in small country towns, you can still, find landlords who can, rent you nice places for, $350 a month, and then you've got $350 for food and power and Wi-Fi or whatever extra stuff. So that's quite doable. And then I had a little apartment here, so I had the rent from that. So I saved all that up, and then I could go, down to Cordoba for a long weekend, or I could go to Granada, or I could, shoot around and go and do travel on the proceeds of that. Yeah.
And I have to ask, because many people know that I love cows and bulls, you were in Asturias, and my recollection when I was there is there was a huge industry around t-shirts and stuff with a cow from Asturias, like a really funny, it was like hilarious slogans and stuff that like vacaciones with a vaca, and like that. It was like a really funny line. Did you see that there?
Maybe. I mean, it's the dairy capital of Spain, I suppose. Because they're all along the north coast. So when you do the Camino, they're just walking through heaps and heaps of cows. And unfortunately pig shit, because they spray the fields with pig shit and the pigs are all in cupboards. But, that's all over the world. The Asturias is big on cows, and of course Asturias is quite progressive. It's not very fond of bullfighting, whereas further down south you get the bullfighting. Asturias is cows and sheep. Cheese, lots of cheese.
Okay.
But I don't eat that because I'm vegan, so I'm not really up with delicacies and seafood.
So coming back to what you said earlier, you did your 4 years of travel. You came back to Australia, figuring that you would work for a year and then go out to Italy, and then the pandemic hit. So, what was the experience like for you as a traveler that was really happy to be traveling and looking forward to traveling again? What were your first feelings that you remember about the travel slowing and stopping?
Interestingly, the pandemic sort of chased me from New Zealand, because obviously we were aware that, various countries, obviously China, Italy, Spain, that kind of domino thing going on, horrifying. So when I came on the container ship from New Zealand to Brisbane, then that's when I was given my first sort of official notice that your behaviour now has to change because of the virus. So that was it. There's no more hugging after that. Then by the time I got to Melbourne, I was staying in a youth hostel, and gradually we were separated. We were given masks if we wanted to, protect people from our coughs and sniffles, separating more. People, the Canadians went home, the Americans went home, the Italians, like poor things, because, like the Spanish, all this hugging is just normal. We have to touch each other. And there was a sort of grief from those young people that they couldn't hug anymore. That was really pretty sad, because I did.
Yeah.
You go, guys, social distancing, and they go, no, this is my friend.
Yeah. It's very hard. I met some Argentinians here while we were still social distancing, and they tried to kiss me, and I really wanted to, but I had to be like, we can't. It was terrible. That's really bad.
That's right. Well, I'm a big advocate for curtsies and bows. So, you can do your namaste business, that's fine, but I like a nice bow, and I think curtsies, you don't have to be a particular gender to curtsy. You can make some lovely, floral kind of movements as you bow, and it's amusing, really. I don't approve of elbow bumps. I think they're just silly. Not graceful. Be graceful.
And you mentioned too, because, as a full-time traveler, I think we're creative in our work experiences. We're kind of working along the travel, or we've really saved up and we're spending, or, multitudes of things. Now you're back and looking for income. And as you said, it's gone mostly online, and you're doing teaching. Like, what else? How has that experience been for you?
Actually, it's been quite tiring, really, because everything you apply for online, you have to make a video for, or you have to do this task, or sieve that mountain full of sand, or it's just like endless training. So I've done the full training for 2 online schools. Well, actually, they've just accepted me for my 3rd online school. I don't think I have to do any training for that, but I had to go it's rigorous questions all the time. So just endless unpaid, sitting at the computer, doing quizzes and, all that. But now I'm actually getting students. The one I'm with is quite big, so I don't see them again. I just see a student every half an hour, so another 2 students, whatever. So I think now I'm kind of through that training entry portal, and you know, the ones that train us, that, you know, like there was a girl who's based in Serbia, and she had been doing it for 4 years, and she was just like super relaxed and just, you know, knew how to do it. So I think you get into a rhythm. But having it online, it's not very well paid. And I think, you know, to make money, you have to be in front of the computer the whole time.
Right.
And this, the one that I'm with, is Taipei time. So it's mainly night times and weekends. So I've also joined on with a care organisation. So in fact today I've done 3 hours house cleaning for some elderly people who, which is why I was in a mask and gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I've also got another cleaning thing. So I'm just picking up bits and bobs around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking, because, you know, there's so much change happening in the world and so many people are losing their jobs. And I feel like those of us that have gone out into the world and traveled full time, it sort of put us at an advantage now, because if we couldn't find a job in a corporation, we're already used to like doing the house cleaning and the, you know, the random service kind of jobs. So this is like normal.
Doing Workaway, you know, just did like anything that people wanted you to do. Yeah. And, you know, in a friendly kind of environment. And that's sort of similar to the caring thing, really. I mean, you know, luckily the caring thing, they pay you money, but Workaway, you got paid in food and board. And, you know, so I was really lucky with my Workaways, because when I started the Workaways, I was particularly interested in staying in 16th century French farmhouses and English. I stayed in a gamekeeper's cottage too. So I was really lucky for my writing project that I got to live and work in these historic places. Yeah. At the same time, you know, so I don't know, I did all sorts of things, you know, gardening and chopping wood and yeah, like you say, the travel thing makes you flexible. I think, you know, it doesn't matter where you sleep, because you're going to get up and go.
Absolutely. I know, I like haven't slept in my own bed in forever. I don't even know. Actually, I gave up my home, so I slept in my own bed for years.
And that was like a huge, big adventure that I did. I just actually bought a new mattress. I was like, oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah. So how are you finding, because I mean, I have a host of feelings about being a nomad, and now it's like, well, in my case, I'm like an expat, but I guess you're kind of like repat. Like you have a home now.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what's that like for you?
I'm so lucky because, you know, well, it's not my family home because I don't have an official family anymore. I mean, I have a beautiful son, but he lives with his dad, so and we're in lockdown, so I don't see him. And like I was so lucky because I had a group of mums who all went to the same school as, you know, our children, and we were like the committee. And so I was able to sort of say help, and, you know, various ones brought over a table, and someone brought a chair, and someone brought me some pillows, and someone brought me some tea towels and some bowls and some cups and some pots, and you know, so gosh, I was so grateful and so lucky. Oh my God. In fact, these tea towels, you know, they came from my beloved friends, so I'm really, really lucky. You know, and they brought me just like, you know, a peeler and a little knife for the vegetables, and you know, a sieve and a toaster, you know.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's so nice. And I feel like, I think traveling also, another adjustment is like accepting help from people, which I found, you know, so it's a fine line for me. I don't mean like, just expecting everyone to help you, but it's like I'm so used to being independent, and as I've traveled, I've had to get used to people wanting to help, and that it was okay to say thank you so much, I really appreciate that. So I think that what a great, beautiful situation you find yourself in, and that it's there for you, and that you're able to accept it.
Yeah, I listened to one other of your podcasts when you were talking about that, and that it really struck a note for me because, I was always the one who was running around helping everybody else, and didn't want to be a burden to anybody, or, and that really changed. I'm not sure if it's one of the podcasts too, that like all the Airbnbs that I ever stay in, I've stayed in at least 30, probably closer to 40 Airbnbs now, all mums. So there was one woman in Prague, and she in her portrait of herself, she described herself as being of the golden age. And there's something about, because that's how women can afford, they've got an empty nest. So a lot of them are single, and they've got, the kids have gone, so they've got the kids' bedrooms, so you're often staying in the kids' bedrooms. And there's a sort of simpatico camaraderie with mums. So that's kind of like a load of golden age people that I've been very lucky to connect with.
Yep, beautiful. So now for the foreseeable future, because I'm so bummed about how Australia's been going. One, because I just think it's terrible when it was going so well and then it goes the other direction. Also, I was hoping to go to Australia, but so now you're gonna be there for the foreseeable future without really being able to travel anywhere. Maybe things will open domestically or bubbles or whatever, but how is that landing with you, and what are you feeling about that?
Well, I realistically, I don't think, we're going very far without a vaccine now, globally. When you look at people who are trying to open and now they have to close again. And also, like, people just have to be respectful of each other, the mask wearing thing, like, it's seriously not a problem in Melbourne, touch wood. Because I don't know why Melbourne's particularly different, but there's like a sense that, obviously you wash your hands and you social distance, but you just don't, how when you get close to people, you can smell their shampoo, or you can smell, people's aftershave. If you can smell someone's shampoo, like when they're talking, then you're going to, when I'm talking, like, you're lucky you're protected. Why not keep your spit to yourself?
Right.
It seems like common sense, doesn't it? I want to protect you, and you want to protect me. And isn't that the sort of society that we want to live in, where we're going to look after each other?
I agree, yes. I try to be on the subject of, all these different attitudes about masks. I have a very hard time watching what's happening in America. The irony that I said to my mother, when I see the headlines about America, I said to her, if you and I were sitting together in America, reading these same headlines about any other country that I was planning to visit, you would tell me not to go there. And she agreed. I look at how fortunate I am that in New Zealand everyone pulled together and worked as a we, and that's exactly not what I'm seeing in America. And I don't understand. I agree with you. I think it's hard. I don't like wearing a mask. I'm lucky at the moment here in New Zealand we don't have to, but I would have a very hard time wearing a mask. I don't like them. They fog up my glasses. I get it. I would wear it because I want to protect my own parents, and I want to protect other people's parents and grandparents and whoever else. So I agree, it sucks. But if we're protecting other people, I don't know why we can't. Okay, maybe it's an infringement on our freedom and other things, I don't know, but if there's even the slight chance you could save someone by wearing it, despite that, why not go that route. I don't get it. So yeah.
Right. Oh, you should Google the fogged up glasses thing. I saw someone on the internet. He just put like a little tissue, and the tissue kind of like it worked. So it just absorbed that little bit of moisture. So there's people who've got all tricks. Like a costumier that I know, she's going to do some felt experiments. Put like a little strip of felt to help people's glasses. Yeah. So there's all sorts of tricks. But I mean, there'll be a vaccine sooner or later. There's what they said, something like 163 different organisations trying to whip up a vaccine. So even if the greedy bastards get there first and start making a profit, then the other people will come up with something that they won't make a profit from. So, sooner or later, there'll be, good people doing the right thing to help the world. That's because if there's one thing that the crisis has shown us, that we can, theoretically work together as a globe, like it's not just, it went through countries like dominoes, but it has no sense of border. There's no kind of, you can't say to the virus, well, unless you're in New Zealand or, it's an island. So, yes, okay, virus, you're not getting off here. But, it's, the ideas of borders become nonsense. And so we have to sort of start thinking, well, no, it's the world. And that's the same with the climate, and we have to start thinking, well, if the virus can blow over there, then the carbon emissions are going to blow over there too. So, and my thing about the state of Australia at the moment is, come on, you want to get the economy going again, create jobs, build a train line. Build a really fast. There's no fast trains in Australia, and there isn't in the States either.
Right.
And that would be, using Australian steel. You'd spend the money that's supposedly earmarked for long-range missiles or something. But it's Australia and New Zealand are so far behind Europe and Asia, and even the Saudis are building a fast route. And they love their petrol.
Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand are going to be way behind. And the other thing that I learned on my container ship journey is that the containers coming from Asia, from China and Taiwan, are full of stuff, like all the washing machines and, iPads and all that comes on those container ships, PPE. They're not made in Australia or New Zealand. And the container ships going back are mostly empty.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. So both Australia and New Zealand have to go, okay, what raw materials have we got here right now? What can we make? How can we ramp up manufacturing? And it just seems like really obvious to me, because I've had that travel experience, being on those fast trains. Yeah. Not the Trans-Siberian and Trans-Mongolian, that's not a fast train yet.
So what are your thoughts on the future of travel? Like, anything that you want to say about that topic?
Well, come on. I think airports should be dead in the water. That should be for essential travel only. And, my heart sank when I learned that Beijing was opening a new airport. I mean, it's gigantic. I think people really don't know how big these big airports are. Paris, London. London's got 5 airports. The amount of air traffic is just insane. And now I get the sense, like the first lockdown when I was walking around, I got the sense that trees are sort of going, because they're not being rained on all the time by, remnants of avgas. Yeah. And I think that now we've got a chance to actually take a breath, listen to the bird song and go, what sort of world do we want? Because generally after a pandemic, something new comes, like after the medieval pandemic, there was the Enlightenment, you know, and I think this is the time when we could become enlightened and we could go, we're in one world. Sure, travel, learn from each other, but gosh, we've got Zoom. We can talk to people anywhere in the world you know, there might be a little lag, but isn't that magic?
Yeah.
Just fantastic. And
Yeah.
imagine, you know, in 100 years ago with the Spanish flu, which came from the States, but imagine, you know, what they were sitting reading books. And,
Yeah.
you know, that was like their Netflix.
Right.
We're really lucky. We're really, really lucky.
So
all we have to do is wait for a vaccine and we're set.
So when that vaccine comes, do you think travel will go back to like it is now with all the airplanes and stuff internationally, or what do you think it will look
Well,
like?
you know, as much as I feel sorry for people losing their jobs, you know, I am deeply interested in seeing airlines train people to run trains. You know, I think, you know, if you've been on the Eurostar from London to Paris, or, you know, any of the fast trains in China, they're like airplanes. And why we can't think in terms of travel, which is, you know, just as fast, if not faster. It's smart, it's clean. Yeah, of course, the creation and manufacture of these things, like, they're going to take energy, but once they're built, why can't they work? You know, what's the problem? And air is like, they're doing some research. I spoke to a pilot on the Trans-Mongolian train, and he's going, oh no, they're not going to have, there's no electric trains, airplanes. There's KLM is interesting, that's the Netherlands airline. They are actually investing in biofuels made from seaweed, and apparently some flights are on seaweed now. But they've also cut all short flights, and they've invested in trains. So every flight less than an hour, I think, or it might be less than 45 minutes, is that they're on a train. So, you know, it's entirely reasonable, and we have to, if we, you know, as humans want to survive, we have to think of clean ways to go about our future. And this is, you know, come on, it's the Mother Nature telling us, giving us a little hint.
That's actually quite interesting. I never even thought of that or heard of that the idea of planes running on fuel that's better for the environment. Thank you.
I think it's airy-fairy, and a lot of, like, that pilot that I spoke to, who's the New Zealand pilot, he said he wouldn't see it happening. He didn't see any change in his industry for the next 10 years. Well, now he's got a big change, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And those planes, you know, they cost a lot on the ground. So, because they have to turn them over, you know, like a car has to be turned over every month. The airplanes have to be turned over and rolled around every day, apparently. So that's all going to cost money. So you know, take the bodies off the wheels and put them on a train track.
Yeah. Well, when the world opens again and it's safe to go internationally and you can go to Italy finally, do you think, only speaking from what you know today, of course, like, would you go back, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, obviously I have to catch a boat because I can't fly. So hitching ride a container ship, you know, they're filthy. They're absolute and super expensive too. It's not a cheap way to go. But if it's the only way to travel, then, but apparently you can catch a boat from Darwin to Bali and then go by boat up through Indonesia. But, you know, as you say, who knows? Yeah.
But that's really cool. That, you know, the idea of travel by boat, and people may look into that more.
Boats are lovely. Boats are fantastic.
You know what? I am going to disagree. I get seasick really easily. I'm a small rise and not a boat fan. A fan of the environment, so I'm sorry about the flying, but like, just, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're a fan of the environment. That's good, because, you know, basically we do have to breathe and we all have to drink water. So, you know, you know, if you play Sim City, and it's one of those things. You've got to pay attention to your air and water quality. And I'm not sure that, you know, we help each other enough like we've got to be good neighbours, because like their water and their air is coming here, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
selfishly, I need to look up, you know, I need to look after everybody. Same
Yes.
thing with the masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, humans are stuffed, and then it's probably actually a good thing, because if we can't work together to save ourselves, then
Yeah, I hope working together will become a popular trend of the future. Any other kind of comments or insights that you'd like to share with the audience on traveling, or, you know, being in the times of the pandemic, and someone that's listening that is a traveler and misses travel so much, like how they might cope with the short term of not being able to travel?
well, I'm a big micro traveller. So, you know, because I don't drive either, but I get out and I walk. So, you know, you can walk around all sorts of little corners and streets and spy on people's lands and gardens, and, you know, not really, oh, what are they doing, you know?
Yeah.
So you can go places you've never been and meet people you've never met, and you know, enjoy cultures you've never enjoyed before. Probably within most, certainly if you're in a city, you know, you just need to walk 6 blocks and, you know, you've probably not met that person. So, yeah, just reel it in. And, you know, being in lockdown, we're reeled in quite hard here. But most places in the world, you can, you know, jump on a bus and go for a walk by a river and, you know, pretend.
Right.
And plan. I met somebody who was supposed to be in Italy now, and they're still waiting for their refund back. But I said to her, you know, well, come on. One of the most exciting parts of travel is the planning. You know, where exactly do you want to go? Like, what beach do you want to be at? Like,
Yeah. That's great. I love that. What great tips. Well, thank you. This has been, so again, this is the first pandemic interview, and this has been really insightful, and you've given some great information and great feelings about everything that's happening. And I was wondering if someone listening wanted to reach out to you and ask any questions, what's the best way for them to do that?
well, probably check out my blog, because I blogged particularly that travel from England to Oz and NZ. You know, that was a 6-week pretty epic journey. So
Yep.
I've got a huge blog of that, a bit too long really, but lots of photos. You can just skip through and look at the photos.
Great. Okay.
So that's www.ourrelationshipwithnature.com. And then,
Cool.
you know, there's links and all the about me stuff, about what I've been doing, and you know, my interests.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you again so much for being a guest. And if you are watching or listening to this episode and you would like to be a future guest, especially in the pandemic, if you are a former full-time traveler and you now can't travel and you would like to share your thoughts and opinions, I'd love to hear from you. You can apply to be on the show at www.interviewquestionnaire.com. Also, feel free to reach out to me with any feedback or questions you'd like to see me ask future guests at heather@heathermarkel.com. And once again, this has been another episode of the Inspired Nomads. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Heather.